All right. What is up, everybody? Hey, this is Stu, and that's David. And hey, this is Filling the Storehouse podcast, and we have a really cool guest today, Josh Adrian. We're going to dig into your story, Josh, and get to know you a little bit better. And I'm really excited about it. We got connected through the organization Gospel Patrons. We had John Reinhardt on our podcast a while back, and I'm curious kind of how that whole interaction went, with you reaching out to us. And but man, we just had some really cool conversations since then, and we had to have you on the podcast. So Josh, welcome, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited to share here. So
Yeah. David, it's also good to see you.
I'm always happy to see you, Stuart, and especially happy to see you, Josh. Quite frankly, I just get tired of talking to Stuart. We talk every day. The podcast is really an avenue of release for me from just the constant bondages of talking to Stuart.
Why are you trying to copy me and like wear the same hat?
Terrible, dude. I've had this hat on for hours. That's not true. You probably had your hat on a lot longer today than I have. I was rocking the uniform. But hey, before we start, I just got my new copy of the Gospel Patrons. We're waiting for our book, Stu, for the challenge we have coming up in September, Giving Together. And I think, it's really interesting to me, and why I'm super excited to have this conversation is just yesterday, I sent someone that link of the video that really got us on the whole Gospel Patrons kick, from the website, when it talks about something along the lines of the greatest challenge to faith. And basically it's a conversation about money. And I just had it with a business friend yesterday, and it's just such something that's so prevalent throughout a lot of the conversations and a lot of things that we do. So it's awesome to see, Josh. It's going to be cool to see what how you're kind of implementing that, what you're doing, and some of the vision. So super pumped for not only to learn some things today, but for our audience. And tell us about yourself, Josh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I found the Gospel Patrons stuff here, within the past year as well. And it was just something that when I saw it, it just struck to write what our company is about. And that was really exciting because for, the last 10 years or so, I felt like there's nobody else kind of doing what we do. And so to find out like, hey, there's other people with these kind of mentalities, and there's, historical precedents for it. That was really encouraging. And then it's been encouraging, since then, to meet you guys and, and other people that I've met here lately, to kind of see, people that have got a passion for Jesus and his kingdom, and who are business minded and are putting those two things together. And, in some ways just really putting, their money where their mouth is on that kind of stuff. So the company I work for is called the Prime Company. It was started by two identical twin brothers, Brian and Chris Elsey. They went to Kansas State University. That's where I went. I grew up in a town of 1,200 people here in Kansas. And so we have nearly as many residents in our apartment complex in Stillwater, Oklahoma, as the town that I grew up in, which is kind of entertaining to me.
That's awesome
to think about. But met them there. We were all part of the same campus ministry. And interestingly, I really got to know one of the owners, Brian, when the two of us went to Wuhan, China together. And at that point, no one in the world really cared or knew anything about Wuhan. But now people, they know.
Yeah, a little more popular now.
It's a little more well known. Maybe it's probably
in the news
not,
a little bit more.
Yeah, it's not the tourist destination. People aren't getting really excited about. But yeah, I had spent a summer over there, and then Brian went back with me and a team for a short-term trip. And so from the start of my relationship with Brian and Chris, there was an aspect of missions in it, and those kind of things. I actually got married, planned on being a missionary. That's what my wife and I really wanted to do. And we struggled to find a place to go or people to go with. And I ended up working in the golf course industry for a while, and worked at some pretty fun places like Pebble Beach Golf Course that people know. And so kind of lived that life for a while, and then had an opportunity come up to move to a country called Bhutan. and it's not a country that is well known, but I went to Bhutan to remodel the King's Golf Course. And so my wife and I spent 5 months. We thought we were going to be there a lot longer, remodeling the King's Golf Course. And we were there until we got a letter that asked why we were cutting down the sacred trees that are only to be cut down when the king has died, and they're going to burn his body with those. And so being we had cut down around 40 of those trees, we quickly exited the country. And anyway, and so that experience being what it was really, solidified a lot of things that, at the time it felt really just like an epic failure on our part, just going there to try to share the gospel and try to do this work. And we were only there 5 months, and, all these things that kind of go wrong, and it was really hard. And so now I'm just so thankful for that time, because it's helped me to love the missionaries that we support really well, and to kind of understand the challenges and things that they go through, and it's also just grown my passion more. So came back from that and started working for Brian and Chris. At that point, it was just the three of us. We just had apartments here at Kansas State University, and kind of started to grow it. And at that time, I got here, started working for him. It didn't take too long to realize, like, hey, this is a pretty financially viable, business to be in, this renting apartments to college students. And so we got, they were doing well with that. And so we kind of sat down and said, like, hey, what's the point of this company going to be? And I remember them saying, like, well, just to make a bunch of money and give it away to Jesus. And yeah, that's great. But we started kind of setting down at that point, like, some concepts, some ideas, some rules about how we would give. And those have changed over time. Some of the ones that we set out at the beginning seem kind of funny to us now, like, things like that. But they had read a book called Movers of Mountains and Men by R.J. Letourneau, who was this, ran a business from the 1920s, like through the 60s, kind of a predecessor to like Caterpillar. It was a big earth moving company, and Letourneau was extremely successful. And he had the mentality that, that he could honor God through his business, through his giving. And so he set a goal of giving away 90% of his company's profits. And so they were really encouraged by that and decided to set that goal for our company. And so we have a stated goal that we want to give away 90% of our company's profits by the year 2040. And so currently we give a little over a third of our profits to organizations that we care about and support. And so most of those are missions agencies and people that we support who are out sharing the gospel around the world, especially amongst unreached people groups. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're really passionate about as a company. And so it's been really fun to see that grow and change here over the years. And it was exciting at the beginning, hey, we gave away $60,000 this year, and to see that number move to be over $1 million a year has just been a really cool thing. It has a lot of challenges too when you start having more and more to give away, and how do you do that well? There's a lot of things that we've had to grow and learn about, but it's been really neat. And an ancillary benefit that I don't think we really probably saw from the beginning is that every day when people are coming to work here, they're not coming to work at a company where they're just trying to make money so that their boss can buy a new yacht or a new cabin in the woods somewhere. But they know that they're working at a place where, yes, people are making money and we're building, wealth as individuals. But for the most part, our money is going towards, these purposes that we think are really important. And that kind of gives you a little extra motivation when, things aren't going quite the best at work, and when things are hard, and when you're having to put in the extra hours, both for you and then, for your spouse, and your kids at home. They know those things, and it's like, well, it makes it a little more easier when you have to have some of those long days and things like that you put in.
And there's a lot.
And I imagine there is a ton there. And I imagine, it's interesting because when you talk to entrepreneurs too, there a lot of times what the language they use is, I don't want to work to to fulfill somebody else's dreams. I don't want to contribute to someone else's bottom line. And I think a lot of that language goes away in that kind of construct, which I think is pretty fascinating. Like that's not something I would have necessarily thought about. But if the culture of your business is that, you said some of the ancillary benefits and effects of that culture, that's a pretty cool thing that that's not there.
We see one of the things that we think is really, entertaining to us is in the industry, in the real estate, the property management business, especially in student housing, which we do a lot in student housing. The turnover of, your general managers and people like that is just incredible in the organizations. It's just amazing to see how many, people moving, coming, going. And, in the last decade, we have one general manager that's moved on, and he left to go work for FCA. And so, it's like our turnover is just incredibly small. And so we'll meet with these different people and like, how long have you been working at this company? It's like, well, I've been there 10 years. Like, are you kidding me? Nobody works 10 years somewhere. Right. And yeah, I think that speaks a lot to that the people at our company are bought into what we're doing. And we really try to work on that culture a lot in our company. We definitely have family as a very high culture point for us. And so we have a family retreat that we take each year, where we take everybody in our company and their spouses and kids on a trip together. And so we're headed to Colorado, here this fall. And yes. we're going to be staying at a ranch up in the mountains and getting to, go, ride horses through the hills or razors and fly fish and do all those kind of things just all together. We actually do like a family lunch together at each of our locations. So everybody and their spouse, their kids can get together and have a meal on the company. And we just find that those interactions between each other and between the whole family just creates just a really great culture. It doesn't replace the church in any way. We're really big proponents of the local church and how important the local church is, but there's those aspects of, community together that we have in our company that really makes it a unique place to work.
Did you need like some outside, like Stuart and I, to join you guys on the company retreat or anything? Or
oh yeah. I've
already gotten the invite.
Yeah, so I told Stuart to come down since he's in Colorado. It's no big deal.
Hey man, I can get to Colorado. I was just in Colorado like 1 week ago.
Yeah, well, yeah. Maybe next year.
Well, and I want to take a step back too, because we kind of skimmed over this a little bit of you joined the company and they just own some apartments in Kansas State. But there's a little bit more to that than just owning a few apartments in Kansas State. So if you could like just dig a little bit into like what the business is, where you started and where you are now, and then kind of what that whole entire Prime company looks like.
Yeah, that's great. So the brothers, they got their degrees in landscape architecture, and for a final project, they kind of worked up this idea with this old kind of rundown apartment complex here at K-State to fix it up and sell it as condos. And fortunately, they were able, to get some family financing to get things growing. And they always like to say, everybody drinks from wells that they didn't dig. And so, there's a blessing there to be able to start the company, through that. But so they bought this old apartment complex. They put an ad in the newspaper. This was that long ago that you could put ads in the newspaper, hire guys. And they just kind of ran this crew, like going through remodeling, demoing all these apartments. And then there was space on the property to actually build a new building. And so they, hired an architecture firm. They hired a general contractor, the most reputable ones in town, and built this. And they were going to sell them all as condos. And well, first off, the contractor, didn't get it done on time, and it was over budget, just like, people always say,
standard
and standard operating procedure, right? And so they were like, well, we watched what they did, and we got our stuff done fast remodeling these. I think we could do this on our own. And so after that, they went and took their general contractors tests and passed, and we started our own general contracting firm and started building stuff ourselves then. But then also the financing for condos dried up as you were starting to get into the early stages of the recession. Condo financing and that kind of stuff was seeming really kind of on the edge there. And so they only sold a couple of the condos, and it was really like, well, we're either going to go bankrupt or we're going to rent these out. And so that's kind of how they ended up renting them out. They didn't really expect this to be like a long-term thing. They thought, hey, it's a fun project. We'll sell all these off. We'll make some money. We'll move on to whatever it is that's next in life for us. And, that was 2006. We're still, doing real estate development. So we built a few more small things here at Kansas State, and then we moved down to Oklahoma State. We built 3 projects down there with 1,000 bedrooms. Now we have apartments at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, and at Ohio State in Columbus, Ohio. And then currently right now we've got dirt moving and framing going in Denver on a project there in Inglewood, which is just a multifamily. It's not a student focused project. And then out at the University of Southern California. And then we have a myriad of projects that are just pressing their way through permitting and all those things. And so along the way, they hired an architect friend that they had from the same campus ministry that I was involved in, and said, hey, we could do this architecture thing too. And so now our architecture staff is over a dozen people. And so we have our own architecture firm, our own construction firm, and then our own management firm. So we're a fully vertically integrated developer, and we don't meet very many people that do that. We meet some people that say they're vertically integrated and they just mean they do construction and management. But to design, build, and manage everything, we feel like we're pretty unique. And that makes for like a really fun process, and I think a really good quality product, because the guys who are running our management team are able to go right to the architects. Like literally this morning, we were sitting down with the architects, going through the office design and like, oh, no, I think that's good. No, this won't really work. We had that one that's like this, we're able to kind of go through that stuff. And that's a really neat thing. And so I think our architecture firm is really outstanding. And I think it's a really, there's just not a lot of people out there who have an expertise in designing multifamily and student housing complexes. And so we have that. And, we're also just, passionate about Jesus. And so that's where our whole company is. So if anybody's out there and thinks, hey, I want to get in this real estate development game and I need somebody to design this thing because I'm not an architect, reach out to us, because that is what we do. And we love doing that.
So you guys just have like a small mom and pop organization. Running.
No big deal.
No big deal.
We just have a few apartments, and
it's been fun to see it grow. Like one of the strange jobs when people ask me like, well, what do you do? It's like, well, one of the strange things I do is I plan this family retreat every year. And like to go from like the first year where we rented like 2 Airbnb like houses, next to each other. And it was like, okay, who's going to cook breakfast today? To last year, we had over 80 people there, and trying to herd cats, through we have all these kids going to water parks and zoos and all that kind of stuff. It's been fun to, see that grow over time. And I've been doing some interviews here lately, and it's exciting to be able to like think about who this person is and who they're getting to be brought in and be part of our team. And just as we're, growing, it's a really fun thing to just kind of see that.
That's so cool, man. I love that. And, so you kind of talked about where you guys started, where you are presently. What's the vision for the future? What do you guys anticipate? Like what do you want this to look like in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of projects in the pipelines at this point, cooking. We're not like a developer that wants to build and sell. We're a build and hold developer. So we plan on just continuing to build these, to run them, operate them, and just build as much as we possibly can. We've really ramped up our design firm. And as you do that, you don't get to do that and then not ramp up your construction and your management side too, right? Like these projects are all coming. And so we're really excited about those. We've got some projects in San Francisco, San Diego, Oceanside, LA, Denver, that we're Austin, that we're working on, that we're really excited about. And a lot of those California ones have been in the pipeline for quite a long time, and they're starting to finally, get ready to go to construction, and that's really exciting.
And you guys, when we had a conversation before, Josh, you were telling me that you don't really do like the syndication model, correct? Like you don't raise a bunch of capital from other outside investors. You kind of started all in-house. That's true?
Yeah. So to this point, we've done everything, just with our capital and bank debt. And so we haven't had to reach out and do any of those things. We're starting to look at those options and taking on investors and things like that. We're trying to look at it, maybe kind of with a little bit different perspective than the way other people do it. To us, when we start hearing people talk about the real estate investment, world and what they're talking about with that, it just seems really complicated and it's really kind of challenging. And we have a different model. So many of those models are based on, okay, we're gonna build this and we're gonna stabilize it and we're gonna sell it, and that's where we're all gonna make money. But since we never sell anything, we don't really have that option. And so it's a little bit, we're a little bit different in that way. But yeah, it has been really neat to just know we've managed to do this all on our own. Had we taken a bunch of capital from other people early on, maybe the size of our company, we'd have more than 65 employees or something like that. But by doing it ourselves, we've maintained control of everything we do, and we like control around here at the Prime Company, and so that's been a good thing. But we are moving in that direction of maybe taking some investors and going down that road. So that's an exciting forefront. And I think that's, to circle back to the beginning with Gospel Patrons, I mean, that is kind of where our relationship here kind of got started, because we designed everything ourselves. We've built everything ourselves. We've managed ourselves. We didn't really need to have a website. Like nobody needed to know who we are. Like no one cared. And so last year, as we started like, hey, we really want to start managing for other people. We want to start designing for other people. We start building for other people. We are confident in our abilities. We've proven ourselves quite well this far that we can do these things. Well, the first thing you have to do is have a website, right? Yeah. You have to go out and do that. And so that kind of led us to this interesting question of like, what are we going to put on our website? Like, what are we going to say about ourselves? And are we going to really put out there, that we're about Jesus and we're about missions? And, that was an interesting question. And we decided, we're going to be completely open and honest about that. And in that process, we started to like meet other Christians that were doing real estate development and talking to them. And so that was great. And I came across the Gospel Patrons thing and I sent a message over to them and talked to John and it was just really great to just see, hey, these guys, they're passionate about what we're passionate about, and some of them, maybe they're actually really passionate about, technology and developing apps or whatever, but they're passionate about that and Jesus and giving money to the church and to his kingdom. And so and then to find people that are doing real estate like you guys who are also passionate about it, it's just so much fun to talk to people like that and just be encouraged. I feel like that's one of the things, other people that are maybe listening to this that are passionate about those things and real estate, reach out to me, because I just enjoy talking to people about it. I mean, to some extent, I talk to people, it's like, I have no idea if we're ever going to be able to do, a project together or anything like that, but it's just really fun to know, like, this is what your heart is, this is what your desire is. Hey, maybe you could think about, doing this kind of thing, maybe, we've gone down that road. Here's some hindrances we've had. Those kind of things are really great and really fun. And I just like relationships. I like talking to people. So.
Yeah, man, it's super cool. And David and I have actually been talking about it a lot, is, how we've been so open about our faith and the the reasons behind our business. And we, I've had lots of conversations with people that have that same faith, but they're a little nervous about putting it out to the world, and they're a little bit nervous about what that's going to look like, and how that's going to how his investors or his co-workers or his contractors or whatever are going to react to him putting that out there and putting that on a website and talking about it openly. Did you guys talk about that at all, and what was kind of the end result of that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, it's the first draft of our website looks very different than what this one looked like. As we were going through, we're thinking, okay, boy, we got we got projects out in San Francisco. What are people out there going to think about us being really forward about our faith? And nobody in San Francisco likes developers, and maybe we're just adding another thing that people won't like. Is that wise, and all those things. And so we had a lot of conversations about that. And one of the things that is really unique, I think, about just like our company, is that we do a lot of stuff together. We've grown, but we're still kind of a small company. And so we literally had 3 or 4 sessions where pretty much everybody in our Manhattan office sat in, and we went through the website, and we were like, are we going to say this? Should we say that? What do we do if we say this? And so it was really collaborative about what we wanted to put out there. And so yeah, you can check out our website. The videos on there, most of us are all highly embarrassed of, and we really want to reshoot, but they do get the point across about what we're about and what we do and all those things. But I just wish somebody, when they were videoing it, would have told us to smile when we were doing it. So
that's
it's
awesome.
kind of,
funny.
Yeah, that was kind of bad. But no, I think that yeah, that's been interesting as we've hired people, as we've grown. At first you're just hiring hey, remember that guy we met in college? He did architecture, right? Let's call
Christian?
him, right? And that as you start to grow and you can't do that anymore, it's been interesting to explain that to people. And so we tell people when we're interviewing them, think of us as the developer version of Chick-fil-A or Hobby Lobby, right? You don't have to be a Christian to work here, but if you're going to be uncomfortable with the work that you're doing, funding, Christian things, that might be a struggle for you, long-term here, because that is the core of our company. That is what we're about. And so that's interesting to have those conversations. So far, I think we've only had one guy who heard us say that and said, never mind, that's not for me. I'm going to stop the interview right now. But for the most part, that's been a really neat and open door in talking to people. And yeah, I think people just generally are excited to see that whether they're as passionate as, some of us are in the company or not, they love that people are passionate enough about something that they're really doing something about it. And so.
Yeah, I think that's, the experience that Stu and I have had on a much smaller scale is it's our business has created the opportunity to talk about our faith. It goes hand in hand, and there's really no way around, which is awesome. It's been, even the name Storehouse 310, what is 310? That looks kind of like a biblical thing to me. And it just opens up the door. And I think it's such an amazing thing. And I really applaud you guys for, just staying true to that. And I think what's really been interesting, Stu and I have been talking about this a lot, is the fact that, where do we really think our blessings come from our investors or from God? Right. And his math is different than ours. He can make, it's his money anyways, and he can make things happen that we could never even conceive of. So I think it's such a powerful thing. And one other thing we've been talking a lot about is debt. And I got to go back to this. I'm just curious, what was the driving mindset or the force behind you guys using your own money and being somewhat, not necessarily opening a door to, because I think people will be shocked to know that you've built what you have built and not taking on a ton of investors, a ton of debt. And I love that. It actually is has me super pumped. And I'm I'm gonna be picking your brain offline quite a bit about, how do you get to that spot? Because we're big believers in being debt free and just the bondage of debt, period. Some people call it investment, but but I mean, it's debt at the end of the day. You owe money. And I'm just curious how you guys came to that conclusion. Like, was it a spiritual thing? Was it a
Well,
just
I mean,
like,
to some extent, we still have plenty of debt, right? It's just all to
right?
banks, it's just all to banks. But I mean, it really comes down, if you look at us, I mean, an outsider could probably come in pretty easy and see, like, let's see, they have their own architecture firm, they have their own construction firm, they have their own management firm. These guys are kind of control freaks. Like, they just don't trust anybody to do anything.
Yeah.
And so I think to some extent, it really comes down to that. It was like, okay, you take on, this investor, you take on that investor, and even if they're, a minority investor, right? Like, you need to take care of, their thoughts and their, what they care about. And is, oof, boy, we kind of do these things, our way. And, especially early on, I think that would have been, it probably would have been easier to take other people's money and grow faster, but also would have been a lot harder just because, we were learning our way through it in so many ways, and having other people in there telling us what to do and how to do it, I think would have been really challenging, just for the makeup of our team. We're definitely have a strong entrepreneurial, do it ourselves, do it our way, kind of thing. And we've learned a lot over the years. It's been kind of funny to talk to other, developers that have, been around, roughly how long we are. And the amount of times we've had the conversation like, oh, all these other people, they don't know what they're doing at all. We got it figured out. Then after a while, you realize, like, no, actually, they kind of did know what they're doing. We have kind of done a lot of the same things they're doing now. So one of the things that we just, from the start, we were like, oh yeah, all these people, they have so many employees at these property management places. Like, we don't need that many guys. Like, one guy can lease and do maintenance and, do the financials and all that kind of stuff. And then we realized, like, oh, there's not actually a lot of people out there that can fix an air conditioner and also be a really good salesman. Like, that's a very small niche community of people that can do that. And so we've had to learn a lot along the way and see that other people were right. But, I think maybe there's a little bit of, there's a lot of control and a little bit of probably unbridled pride at the beginning there that we've had to walk through and learn from.
Well, there's an interesting dichotomy there of, like, just the social capitalism kind of world when you start kind of bringing on investors, because if you bring on an investor that you're promising a return of their money, but then you're taking your profits from this company and you're giving it all away to charity. Well, what gives? Like, are you going to create profits for your investor, or are you going to take your profits and give it to charity? And as you continue to create more profit, your company is choosing to give more and more away every single year. Yeah. Well, how does that impact an investor when they start investing into your company and expecting a return? So it's an interesting, thought there on how to handle that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we've kind of hit this point here lately where, we've had to think about those things. In the past, we just were really like one-minded about that. But we started to realize, like, hey, we've kind of built this sports car that really works. Like, we've got a system in place with our vertically integrated company. It's great. But at the end of the day, if there's no gas in that car, it's just a big paperweight, right? And so, we've kind of got all these things in there. And so we've had to, think differently about, hey, how do we want to do all our projects moving forward? And so, yeah, there's a lot of those questions that we're having to work through.
Well, talk to us about, the decision to increase your giving on an annual basis to get to that 90%, kind of flipping that tithing principle. Like, was that a discussion from the very beginning of kind of building out the business? Or
I don't even really remember it being a discussion. There was just kind of, I think in some ways it was like, hey, this other guy did it, sure, we could do it. And then, well, how do you do it? Well, I was like, well, you probably aren't just going to, like, all of a sudden give 90%, right? That would be really, challenging and strange. So, we're given 10, let's see, maybe we could do 13 next year. And, you do that, and okay, maybe we could do 16 the next year. And, just trying to to grow that. And it's really fun, you know, when we have our annual retreat to be able to sit down with all of our employees and show, hey, you know, we built this project this year and look how much money that brought in. But then we upped our percentage of giving too. And so, you know, these numbers are compounding off each other and just keep growing up. And, you know, that gets us really excited, just being able to see those things. And, you know, we love getting to see update letters and stuff from the different people we support and see, you know, what's happening with these funds that we do. We do a lot of sharing, like our family lunches. It's really common for us to have like you know, one of our people that we support who's back in the US, we invite them to that so they can share with us, you know, what's going on and how they're putting that money to use. And it's just exciting to see those things and be able to pray for those people, you know, better and get to know them better. And in fact, we're actually, our family retreat this year to Colorado, we've got 5 different, you know, supported people, like families that are coming on it, you know, and like they don't work here, but it's like, hey, this is a way for us to bless them first and foremost, and secondly for the people in our company that don't know them, you know, to get to know them. Because, you know, a lot of the people that we support and organizations we support, they come from people that the people who work for us know. You know, they say like, hey, you know, I was at this conference, I heard this guy speak, you know, you should listen to them. And we hear them and say, oh yeah, they're right on what we're about. Yeah, let's support them some. But, you know, somebody, you know, a bunch of the people in the company may not know them. And so this is one of those opportunities we have to really, you know, bless them and bless each other by knowing what they're doing. And so getting to look at those numbers and see, you know, at some point they're just numbers, right? But those numbers like really have impact. And so that's a neat thing to be able to see and hear about.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the fact that you're bringing them on the retreat as well. It just, I think, will further enrich your culture and helps the folks put a face to the name and seeing where the, you know, the missions that are being supported. That's pretty incredible. So when I'm kind of curious on the, you know, is it just a faith thing that has led to the giving, or is there like a, you know, something, a different why that has really driven this passion? Because it's a passion, right? And it has to be a passion to get to the point where you want to be, where you're giving 90% away. Like, what is there a deeper why that you guys all have embraced and hold on to continue to drive this forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent we were probably our group and the organization we were involved in college was, you know, impacted a lot by John Piper and his comment that missions exist because worship doesn't. And so what does the Bible teach us? Well, it teaches us that we're all supposed to be, you know, God desires everyone to worship him. And that is the purpose of what we're here for. And so, you know, as young college students, we had opportunities. Like, what could we do? You know, we could do what, like, I kind of tried to do from the start. We could go be missionaries. We could try to go live in a place and learn the language and struggle, you know, with learning those things because I'm really not that smart. And, you know, sharing with people and understanding cultures that you didn't grow up in and all those things, you know, and that's hard. Or could we, you know, stay here and, you know, who in the world is better equipped at raising money than men in America, right? I mean, we've got the freedom to start businesses and have great financial opportunity to do things. And, you know, we support people around the world who they don't have those opportunities. But what they do have is the ability to know the language, to understand the culture, and to be able to share the gospel with their neighbors and friends and communities and all those kind of things. And so we love that. We support Westerners that are overseas as well, but we love indigenous ministries that share the gospel around the globe, because we know we can't, but we know what we can do. And, you know, I think God has obviously blessed us beyond our ability, especially in the early days of the company. I would always tell people like, yeah, you know, none of us here are really all that bright, but God seems to keep blessing what we're doing. Once we hired architects, though, they didn't like that, because they are real professionals. They have training. They're like, no, we actually are pretty smart. Like, we know what we're doing. It's like, well, the rest of us,
speak for yourselves.
Yeah. But the rest of us, we're just, we're definitely just living under God's blessing of growing this business. And so, yeah, that's been, it's a great aspect of it, to really realize, like, this is what God has cut us out for. He's cut other people out for different things, but for us, this is what he's got. This is our way to bring worship to him from around the world. And we can do it right here from Manhattan, Kansas.
That's so cool. Well, talk to us about, you had told me about your visions of another company on top of that, on top of everything that you're doing now. You're wanting to integrate a nonprofit sector in student housing in your projects. And I know you're not quite there yet, and you're having some challenges with that, but give us the kind of the vision of what that looks like too.
Yeah. So one of the things that kind of came about from, building the website and kind of getting our name out there, started talking to other people that do the real estate development gig around. And I was talking to a guy, and he was just super passionate about financial peace for his tenants. And he was doing all these different really cool, really unique things with technology and his tenants, to try to help them be like, good stewards, and so we were talking about that as a leadership. And, I was like, it's really cool. Like, it's not really our passion. Like, okay, what can we do? What is our passion with this stuff? It's like, well, we just want people to know Jesus, and why don't we do more with that with our tenants? And in the past, like in the very early days of the company, when it's the first complex, the owners tried to have like some Bible studies with their tenants and some things. And that we found that to be really, really awkward. Like, when you're trying to tell a guy like, hey, let's go through Matthew 2. Also, you owe me $375. And I noticed that you didn't pick up your cigarette butts. So, it's just a
but God bless you. But God bless you.
Yeah, it's just strange. Like, and it's a challenge. And so we'd heard about an organization called Apartment Life. And we think Apartment Life is wonderful. It's really cool what they do. They're so good at what they do that non-Christians hire them to work at their apartment complexes, because even though they're sharing the gospel, they're so good at improving apartment complexes community that it's worth it financially to have them there. And so we looked at what they were doing, and we were like, hey, we want to take that up a step. We want to do it full time. And as we've already made clear in this podcast, we like control. And so we want to be in charge of it. And so we set out to launch what we're calling, at least at this point, Prime Life, where we want to have someone that we hire to work full time at each of our complexes. They'll live on site and they'll work there. And their job is to share the gospel with the people that live there and build community. And so to put on events, and have, for lack of a better word, Taco Tuesday or whatever, and then making a bunch of tacos, or bringing in somebody that can teach people, how to make tortillas or something like that. Just, some kind of fun things to build engagement in the community and to build relationships that allow them, a place into people's lives to share the gospel. Because we really felt like that's an area where we have influence, we have a means to access people, but we weren't really doing anything with that opportunity. And so we really want to invest in that. So yeah, right now we're trying to figure out how we set that up and really make that happen. There's more challenges there than what we originally anticipated. But we're really excited about pushing through that and being able to have people at every one of our complexes who's there to, counsel people and be people's friend and share the gospel with them and love them well at every one of our apartment complexes. And we really see that as a big piece of of our ministry as a business going forward.
Man, you guys don't play around with your whys.
Right.
It's some big vision. I'll tell you, it's super encouraging to, to see that bigger purpose behind it, the bigger cause, the bigger why, the desire to make lasting impact. And I love that. I don't know a ton about apartment life, but the fact that the point that people, it kind of ties to your business as well, but the fact that people are inundated with this positivity and the mission is to do something bigger than yourself, and it's community fellowship based. I think it's such an awesome dynamic that non-Christians are hiring these folks to do stuff. And I think your business speaks to that as well. And the fact that I imagine it's not just your general contractors, but I imagine you guys have very little turnover throughout the business.
Yeah. I mean, we generally have got pretty small turnover, which is wonderful.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'm curious. So you have all these different, you talk about control. I imagine you can't be in Kansas, San Francisco, LA, Oklahoma. Like, how are you setting that up? Like when it comes to people and boots on the ground, how are you doing that?
Yeah, no, that is a challenge, right? Like, and it's interesting with COVID and now everybody thinks that everybody should just get to go work remote and all those kind of things. There's been some interesting things with that where, where we're starting to see more people understand what it looks like to manage people remotely well. And so we're able to learn from that, but also, from, the first few years of the company, when we went to Stillwater and we're like, hey, we're going to build apartments down here. Well, like immediately we have someone quote unquote working remotely. Granted, they live there and they operate there, but, we had to manage them and learn through those things. So we've been doing that for a long time. And, early on, that looked like me taking a lot of 4.5-hour drives down to Stillwater. Like once a week, I would go down there and check. And then it moved to twice a week, as we've grown, as our teams got stronger and different things, we've learned, how to do that better. But we are very strong on having people work collaboratively together. We think that's really important. And that's been an interesting challenge for us. We think Manhattan, Kansas is an awesome place to be. We could have gone other places. I mean, I lived at Pebble Beach, right? I lived on the ocean in California, right? Like I lived good places. And yet this is where, my family wanted to be and to come back to. Sometimes it's a little hard to get people to see that when you're hiring and you're trying to bring people in and they're like, no, it's really, no, I can work remotely and that kind of stuff. And that's a challenge that I think a lot of, people are having to deal with right now, but we are especially, and there's just something about working together and being able to just bounce ideas off each other so easily. And especially, on the creative design, creative problem solving. And so much of what we do is creative design, creative problem solving that just takes place together. But like I said, you can't do that, out in, for your remote guys who are actually at a property somewhere else. And so one of the things that we do that is super unique, I'm sure, is that from 8 o'clock till 8:30 every morning, we have an optional prayer time. And so, you can choose to just go sit at your desk or, wherever you're doing your work at and just work, or you can, jump on a Google Meet and be a part of a prayer time. And that's really been a neat way for us to keep in touch with our people who are away and know what's going on in their lives and pray for them and just have that community that comes that's a lot deeper by sharing, real things with people. And so that has given us, like, I think a leg up on a lot of other people as they've, transitioned to remote work and those kind of things, that we've had this culture of that kind of communication daily with people that are outside of, just our corporate office here. And so that's kind of a different thing that we do to keep that great, no matter where someone's at.
That's so cool. Josh, man, I feel incredibly blessed to just to know you, and I'm excited about getting to know you and the rest of the folks in your company better. Feel blessed and humbled that we got connected, that you reached out to us, and that we've chatted, and I know that there's tons more for us to learn, through each other and help each other grow. Is there anything? And I'm excited about y'all's future of I'm excited that you've decided to create a website and you've decided to tell more people about what you're doing, and kind of get out there a little bit more. And is there anything that our listeners could potentially do to help you grow? I mean, I know there's some challenges with the nonprofit side, and I know we do have some people that work in nonprofits that listen to this podcast. Is there something that our listeners can help you with?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great. So, the challenge, with the nonprofit, that's a real challenge for us. It is right now. How do you set up a business? And it's not from a financial standpoint. It's really about, being able to ask the right questions to get the right people, and you're kind of wanting to hire people who share the gospel, or they need to understand the gospel and some of that stuff. And so how do you set up an organization that is able to do that, who is solely funded, by us? That's an interesting question. So if anybody is an expert on that, boy, I'd sure love to know more about that. And and we're always, we're needing to find people who want to do that work. And so, if you know somebody, they're like, hey, who would be perfect for that job, let me know. We're looking for people to do that. And we got to get some things set up here with the business entity and everything, but we're looking for people to live in our complexes, to be a light for Jesus there and share the gospel and build community and just love people well. So yeah, if that came out of this meeting, we're able to figure all that stuff out, man, it's totally that make my month, that's for sure. So
yeah. Hey, Josh, I want to, as we button up, I just want to thank you so much. As Stu said, humbled to have you on the show. We're just couldn't be more happy for you guys, for your business, for your growth, for your mission, for your love of the Lord, your love of people, and just seeing the gospel go and spread and grow. And I'm just completely encouraged, and just to hopefully encourage you. You guys are making a huge impact. I think, all the blessings you get here will be nothing compared to on the other side, just with the number of people that you're influencing, impacting on a daily basis. It's just so incredible, man. You're building a kingdom, and it's just an honor and a privilege to have got to sit down. Really look forward to get to know you guys better. Super excited about my forthcoming invite to your company retreats.
Oh yeah.
Really excited about that. And we
if there's
anything we can do for you guys, we would love to be a part of what you're doing and what you're building, because it's amazing. So keep it up, man. You guys are doing amazing stuff.
Yeah. It was interesting after the first time, I really appreciate that. But after the first time I talked with Stuart, and I was just kind of telling the guys in the company, what we talked about and stuff. And I think we were all just really amazed, wow, these guys have built a podcast, based off this. They've got, that's amazing. We were really just inspired by you guys being able to do that. And some of the things that you guys have done, and it's boy, I don't think there's any way we could make that happen. Some of the things that you've done. So that's really neat. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys out in Colorado and getting to know you guys better. And yeah, I just love talking to people about, Jesus and business. We talk about that a lot. We go to these different conferences, and it's it's kind of fun. In my day-to-day interactions, I don't have people who are just want to talk about the same things I want to talk about, and so when you meet those people, it's pretty exciting, and that's a real blessing. And so it's a blessing to get to talk with you guys for sure.
Well, if you love talking to people, talk about Jesus, business, and it even goes into real estate, come on, man.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Easy day.
Done skis. And I'm always so proud and so actually shocked when we have guests or just even conversations I have with people that are like, yeah, I talked to Stu and I came away happy and smiling and engaged and want to talk to you guys further. So that's always a shock to me. It's always a shock to me, but I'm so glad to see that there's at least one more person. So that's good.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Hey, man, I'm building you up, bro.
Thanks.
I'm here to build you up as well because I love you.
That's what partners do. Josh, how do people get a hold of you? Let's send them to your website so they can check it out.
Yeah. Our website is theprimecompany.com, and there's plenty of information on there, plenty of contact info. There's my phone number's right on there. You can just call me. We're that old fashioned, and
Nice.
And so yeah, you can go there and check us out. There's a lot of good stuff. I got a couple jobs on there if anybody's wanting to come work for us right now. We do have some opportunities available, and as we're growing. So yeah, if you heard any of this and you're like, man, that seems like a good place to work, I could go to that vacation and I don't have to build a podcast with a bunch of followers in order to do it. Like, that sounds nice. I can do that. Yeah, reach out to us, and that would be wonderful.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. It's great to see you and great to talk with you again. I'm glad you came on, and yeah, guys and gals, hey, reach out to Josh if it sounds like a pretty sweet place to work if you're looking, to get into something like this. And even if you're not, like, just talk to Josh and pick his brain on like what they've done and where they've gone and where they're going. It's a lot of fun to have conversations like that. So share this. Tell other people about this podcast, and give David a 5-star review, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Stu, it's just one review.
Oh,
I don't know how many times we got.
All right, give us a 5-star review, and hey,
stars.
Most importantly, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day, friends. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.
See you.